Hey guys, and welcome. I'm Gabby, and this is Skill Building for Handstands. This workshop is a little collection of things to keep in mind. It's a way to think about and approach your movement, and a bunch of moves to help you develop a mind-body connection and cultivate the strength needed to do some really fun things like handstands. Each episode will highlight some different poses and movements before we get to the handstand stuff and drills. Everything can be watched in any order. I like to do info first, and then the movements theory, and then putting it all to practice. So we're going to start with some concepts and different things that you can think about and then bring them to the mat. Okay, so handstands, when I think of them, I think of a culmination or a peak, and like a peak, it's made up of a lot of different things. So deconstruct to reconstruct. Take your handstands, break it apart, train and strengthen those pieces individually, and then melt them all back together. It's like a puzzle that needs solving. You look at all the pieces of the pose, you gather your framework, you set your foundation, your corners, and your edges. You might not know where all the pieces go yet, but they all fit together in time. When you come to your mat, work on building connections and waking up and speaking to all the bits and pieces of your body, learning to move with steadiness and ease, activation and awareness, cultivating that strength, and learning to breathe with rhythm, and then taking all of that and putting it upside down. The middle gets filled in with all of your practice, and eventually the puzzle is finished with a sweet hang time upside down. Do your yoga. It all adds up. Each pose has something to teach you. Explore, focus on different things, take what you discover, and bring it upside down. Everything is connected. Practice your sun salutations. They strengthen, they lengthen, they teach you muscle memory, and they teach you to breathe with rhythm. The bonus is that memorizing the sequence frees up space for you to focus on nuances like breathing or alignment. Learn to identify your strengths and your weaknesses and train them accordingly. A really great tip that I was told many years ago was to not use somebody else's ruler to measure our own progress. And that is very, very specific on this journey. We are all different. We are all starting in different places. We all have different strengths and weaknesses, and it's all going to take time to blend those things together. So just let it be. Let it all come at its own pace. Be consistent, show up, and practice daily. Every day you practice, you build more connection to your body, and those connections allow you more control. Think active versus passive in your movements. Think of the poses as yoga, but also as body weight or calisthenic type exercises. Awareness breeds connection. Right, bud? The more time you spend with your puzzle pieces, the more attention you give them, the more connected you will become to each piece. It's a practice. The more you cultivate it, the more it becomes a habit. Awareness in your movement is paying attention to things like your breath, your arms, your legs, even simply changing the position of your feet, alignment, engagement, one at a time or all together, noticing how something works in one pose and taking that feeling to another. Body scans are a pretty cool tool that you can use to build that awareness, and it's something that I do constantly throughout my day. At any given moment, how aware are you of yourself? How's your posture? How's your breathing? Are your shoulders scrunched up? Are they nice and relaxed? Is your face carrying tension? Scan and adjust. In a pose, how aware are you of your breathing? In a handstand, are you stacked? Are your arms straight? Scan and adjust. Make it a habit. Treat your awareness like you treat your breath. When you notice that it's wandered, bring it back to yourself. I am a huge fan of taking pictures and videos. Obviously, if you've seen my Instagram, it's an excellent tool for self-study though. When you're upside down and your perception is altered, it can be really difficult to find that alignment or that straight line. So pay attention. When you're on your mat and you're practicing and you feel this pose, you're like, yes, I am so straight, right? You go back and your video says, no, you are not that straight. But because you paid attention, you know that feeling. So the next time you go back and you feel that feeling, you know, readjust. I hope that makes sense. Create a mental checklist of things that you need to remember. Go through it always, make it a habit, make it automatic. At first, your list might seem really long and have lots of components to it, but over time, it really does become root and memory, and that allows you to focus on smaller aspects of your checklist, different things that you need to pay attention to. When I'm tired or lazy, I tend to bend them a little too much. So part of my checklist on setup is paying attention to my arms and giving that area some extra focus and attention. Breathe steady, be steady. Learning how to breathe upside down is a game changer, and it is a process of discovery for sure. Include time in your warm-up or your setup to find your rhythm, set your pace, and let your breath guide you. Cultivate your rhythm and your beat in sun salutations, vinyasa flows, long holds in different poses, inversions and arm balances, and then take all of that knowledge and bring it to your handstands. Long holds like in Hatha Yoga teach you to breathe through discomfort and adjust in a pose. Flowing teaches rhythmic breathing and how to stay steady despite the transitions or the challenging poses that you're moving in and out of. Think about riding your breath, keeping it slow and steady, letting your inhales mingle with your exhales. I like to match the length of my exhales to the length of my inhales to the length of my movements and vice versa, everything keeping the same steady pace. Use it to your advantage. Inhale and use that energy to lift and float. I've heard other people do the opposite, so really it's just about finding what works for you, playing around, exploring, and knowing that there is no right or wrong. Get familiar with your bandhas, learn to use them to your advantage. Google them, read all about them. They are super, super interesting. Go down that rabbit hole, but for now, I'm just gonna keep things very, 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 very simple. So you've got your abdominal lock or your Uddiyana Bandha, and like I said, simple. For me, I like to think about just breathing with engagement and keeping that energy. Take a deep inhale and fill the belly, then exhale it out, drawing your belly up and in. Maintain that energy and engagement and continue to breathe. Well, Mula Bandha is your root lock, and that is what's responsible for giving us that sensation of being light on our feet, of lifting and floating. Just like with awareness, just like with your breath, when you've noticed that you've lost that engagement, bring it back, come back to yourself, relock it. Okay, so a really silly way that I like to think about finding your Mula Bandha and turning it on is to be sitting cross-legged, close your eyes or use your imagination, and imagine that you've got these really long arms, and your long arm can reach all the way down through the top of your head, down, 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 right above your root chakra, your root lock, and like a bathtub drain, you're gonna lift it, turn it, and lock it into place. I told you it was weird. It's like an internal Kegel, not an outside squeeze. Okay, gaze, you've got two types, internal, external. External is what we're looking at. It's your drishti, it's your focal point. Find your drishti and hold it. Try it when you're in a pose and see how it helps you balance and focus. Internal is looking at yourself. It's your mind's eye, your third eye, your internal gaze, whatever you want to call it. It's really how you can mentally observe yourself, see yourself, sense yourself, and feel yourself when you're in a pose, especially a handstand. Finding a drishti or a spot to stare at keeps our minds busy, allowing our internal gaze to focus inward, helping us mentally see ourselves, feel ourselves, and make micro adjustments. For a handstand, a little trick is to find a speck of dirt on your mat or place something in the right spot, right between your hands in front of you, and use that for focus. Use tools like visualization and your imagination. Close your eyes and try to imagine yourself in a handstand or a difficult pose. Being able to paint that picture is part of trusting your abilities, trusting in yourself, and believing in yourself. If you can see it, you're that much closer to being able to do it. Think photographic memory and then recreating what you see on your mat. Okay, so visualizing yourself in the handstand while you're in it is even more clutch. So now let's try this. Instead of visualizing yourself in that shape that you're trying to attain, I want you to now try to visualize yourself right now, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, whether it's sitting, standing, walking. Be aware of yourself. It's like an internal body scan in a way. In a handstand, you need to focus internally and externally all at the same time, and you're scanning and scanning and rescanning and rescanning. So make that a practice. Use the power of thought. Think light, be light. It's a mindset. Get playful and use your imagination. Maybe you imagine white puffy clouds under your feet lifting you and floating you along. Or maybe it's strings and you have them tied to your hips and tied to your feet and they're helping you stack and stay in position. Whatever tricks you have, use them. Okay, I think I rambled enough. Keep these concepts in the back of your mind and just pull them out when you need them. So now we'll go explore some movements and different poses, ways to use them, ways to think about how they relate to handstands.